Welcome on Pascal's China Lens. So this week I want to thank Dirk de Boe. He wrote a number of books. One I got from him is called Inner Shock. And these are often books about innovation and creativity in education, especially in the Flanders region of Belgium. And so he asked me a question on how Chinese kids are coping with the pandemic. Here's my answer. How did Chinese kids cope with the pandemic? Well, it's interesting to look at how the educational system works in China. There's 500,000 schools. There's 260 million students. There's actually 8 million of them are graduating from university every single year. China has the largest educational system in the world. But it's also the oldest, from 2,000 years ago. It's a very traditional system based on meritocracy, based on measurements, based on efficiency, on scores. We all know that. And this is typically what Western educators will tell the world, that China's education system does not prepare kids well for creativity and critical thinking, but they're very good at memorizing, and so they have their advantage. But during the crisis, actually this environment was a benefit. Why? Because when you have all that measurement, you basically have a lot of big data. And having all of that big data means that educational technology companies or EdTech companies could use that data to create these AI algorithms to do online learning and personalized learning online. And that was really what took off in China the past months. From January, it was really booming like crazy. It's a $54 billion market in China today already. There's 300 million students on EdTech being active users every single month. That is 1 out of 3 cell phone users. There's 900 million smartphone users in China. So a huge amount of people, a huge market. And so that means that these technology companies are really doing a big job to help the students cope with the crisis. And so most of the students got quite good online learning tools and quite good support, from tutoring to coding to anything you could imagine. Even the teachers had support from many of these tools. Now, the other thing is the social fabric in China. I think we shouldn't forget about that. Parents really will not compromise on budget whatsoever for their children. This is their highest priority in their life, and they will spend huge amount of money, sometimes 5 to 10 times more than Western kids. And that means that parents were helping their children at home, because they were stuck at home as well, to cope with homework and basically to help, but they've been used to do that for many, many years before. So it's not a new thing or a new normal they had to get used to. They're used to help their kids a lot. And if they can't do it, they'll have tutors to do it. Now these tutors are online. On top of it, often grandparents live at home with the parents and the children or the child, which means they also could chip in and support their children. So the whole family was supportive of making sure that the child would not get behind on its education. So that's the social fabric that it has. China really has this very strong. That's for 2,000 years like that. On top of that, the government takes care about the children because they understand that education is critical for China, together with innovation, to make China go outside of this middle gap that they're so worried about. And so for the Chinese government, they were helping the poor and remote areas with 4G, 5G, with tablets, with everything possible. So I'm not saying some Chinese kids did not have the same situation that a lot of kids in the West had, basically a slower getting used to this new normal, but they coped quite well with the new normal. And one big difference on top of that is that once they went back to school, and by May it was about 40%, by September it should be every Chinese. What you see now, and what you did see in June, is that the regulation in school was still very, very strict. They had to wash their hands, everybody was wearing a mask in class. Before you get into school, you have to take your temperature, show a green QR code that you are safe. There's a lot of regulation. Distance in the canteen when they were eating, they had to bring their own food. They couldn't just get food from the canteen, and so on. Lots of stuff. And so the environment is really helping these children to not feel that this is a big new normal. And so I think we can learn a lot from the educational system and how they coped with this crisis, and learn a lot from the schools and the regulations, as well as the EdTech coming out of China right now. Now, I hope you liked this week's answer on Pascal's China lens. If you're interested to know more about education in China, I can of course recommend you my book. I have a chapter on smart education in here, and it will tell you everything on the future of education in China, and maybe understand a little bit about what's going on really in that country when it comes to Chinese kids and their future. See you next week for another episode of Pascal's China Lens.